Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a C++ tutorial, and I've broken it down into sections, which I'll go ahead and show you now. So what we're going to be covering in this video is going to be Visual Studio, comments, data types and their declaration, basic math, modulus, and then the sequence structure, as well as the static cast command, okay? So first things first, like I said, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Ultimate 2012. Now, if you don't have an IDE and need one, I'm going to be posting a link in the description, but here it is as well. And this is just for Visual Studio if you want to follow along exactly. If you have a different IDE that you'd like to use, go for it. You can get free 90-day trials. And also, one thing to note is if you're a student, you can get it for free through DreamSpark. So if you can, I would take advantage of that opportunity. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and just get started with Visual Studio. So first thing, you got to open it up, then do New Project. We're going to do a Windows 32 console application, which if you don't see it immediately, make sure you're within the Visual C++, and then it should be Win32 console. I'm just going to name this CPP Basics Section 1, because this is going to be Section 1 of what I think is going to be about 6 videos. Alright, now when this screen pops up, make sure you hit Next. And then we're going to want to click on an empty project, okay? And you can leave everything else checked or unchecked. Just leave it how it is other than empty project. And then hit Finish. Just give it a second to get set up there. Okay, so this is going to be the first screen you're going to see. And you're going to want to come over to Solution Explorer and click on Source Files, and then right click. Now go to Add, and then a new item. And you're going to want to add a C++ file. And I'm just going to keep it named source.cpp and hit Add. So this is going to give you a blank, like a programming document basically, okay? So to start things off, we're going to do include iostream using name space std, and finally int main, double parentheses, squiggly bracket, tab, okay? So I'm going to explain these more in detail, well actually all three of these more in detail in later sections, so we're not going to worry about that, but we're going to use this in every section, okay? The same setup. So we're going to go ahead and start off with comments. A comment is part of your program that the computer does not read. It's mainly for, well, it is for other people to read though. So let's say you're working in a team project, maybe you and a friend are writing a program, and you declare some variables, and when he looks over the code he doesn't know what the variables were for. You could say comment, this variable is for, and then whatever it's for. But to declare a comment, use 2 forward slashes, and you'll see at the top here I did 2 forward slashes, and I'm going to go ahead and write the date. December 12th, 2013. And usually the dates in every program, as well as like maybe your name, or if you're working in an organization, you could do that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and just keep mine just like this, okay? Now, since that's how a comment works, and we're going to use comments throughout this first section just so you can kind of get the feel of what they're used for and why they are important. So next thing we're going to talk about is data types. Now, there are a lot of data types, but we're going to mainly be focusing on int, which is an integer. I'm going to actually write whole number, okay? We're going to be working with floats, which is a decimal number. Character, actually, and it's just pronounced car, and that is a single letter. Booleans, which is just BOOL to declare it, and that's going to be a true or false. And then one that we might get into, but we probably aren't going to be dealing with a lot in this video just because we won't need to, it's called a double, and that's just more precise decimal. So it's basically like a float, but it can go out further in its precision. So, but for what we're going to be using, we're just going to need these top 4. And one other type is going to be, it's called string, but we have to include a different one of those, so we're not going to jump right into that yet. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just declare some variables with these. So for the first one, we're going to say int age equals 18 semicolon. Okay, you have to end each line with a semicolon. So we're going to start out with age is 18 because that's generally a whole number, and we're going to say temp equals 97.4. A character could be, let's say, gender equals single quote, and we're going to go ahead and put an M within there because I'm a male. And then we're going to do Boolean found, which we're going to mainly use Booleans within loops, which will be in later sections, where we're doing a search through an array, and we want to keep searching until it finds what we're looking for. And as soon as it finds it, found will be set to true. So we're going to just go ahead and set Boolean to false. Forgot my semicolon there. And then a double. We're actually going to go ahead and erase double and do something called a constant. Now, constants in C++, you say const and then the data type. So we're going to go say const float, and then for constants, use capital letters. So we're going to say pi equals 3.14. Okay? And the reason behind this is constants will just be easier to find in the coding because it'll just be all uppercase. So that's just kind of convention, not law of the code, or law of this language. So that is basically how to declare variables and a bunch of different types that we're going to be using. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some math. So let's comment this off, the Boolean and pi. We're going to comment those off for now. And we're just going to work with gender and age. We'll go ahead and jump down 2 lines. And let's say you want to add just 1 to age. You could say age equals age plus 1, age plus equals 1, or even age plus plus. Now, age equals age plus 1 is pointing to the location of age in memory, taking that value and adding 1 to it, and then saving it. Okay, so it's saying in this memory location we want to store 18 plus 1, 19. This is basically the same thing, it's just a shorter way of writing it, since you're adding itself to a different value and then accepting the new value. And this final one can only be used for adding 1. So age plus plus would just say age plus 1. And then if you did it again, it'd be age plus 1 again. Whereas with these ones, we could change this to 2 or this to 2. This one would still be 1. Okay? Now, you can also do minus the same exact way with age minus equals, or even age minus minus, which would be for subtracting 1. Okay? So that's going to be the basics of addition and subtraction. Multiplication can be done by saying age equals 9 times 5, or age equals 9 divided by 4. And I'm going to make a point with this and how it's stored as an integer in a moment. And actually, we'll go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to comment these off just so we can print out these two. So let's go ahead and do cout age, okay? And then an end L. So cout is the statement used for printing out to the screen. This really is just 2 less than symbols, but it's called the insertion operator. And then you're pointing to a variable. So we're pointing to age, and then you just have to put this between whether if you're writing or if you're pointing to a variable. And then you don't always need an end L, but we're going to use an end L just so it jumps down a line. And now we're going to do cout age end L. So we'll go ahead, and to run this, just hit Control F5, and that'll launch the program. Okay, so you'll see that it did do 9 times 5, which is 45. Now, it says that 9 divided by 4 is 2. So what it's doing is 4 goes into 9 twice, actually 2.25 times. But since age is an integer, and both of these are an int, it's saying, okay, 9 divided by 4, that has to be 2, and it's truncating the value, which means it's cutting off after the decimal. Now, there's a few ways to fix this, and I'll actually show you one way right now, and the other way, which is kind of a better way to use, I'll show that at the end of the video. So we could say age equals 9.0 divided by 4, because that's treating this value more like a float, okay? But age is still an int, so it's not going to save that. But if this was a float, even if you said 9, like here, if we change age to float, and now age equals 9.0 divided by 4, it will display the 2.25. See? So that time, since age was a float and this was 0.0, it accepted it. Okay, so that's going to be that for dividing and multiplication for now. I'm actually just going to delete this section here. And we're going to come back to this segment here, and I'm going to show you a different way than making this a float and this a 0.0. Because if this was a variable, we couldn't add a just age 0.0, okay? So there is a better way to do that I'll show you. The next thing we're going to want to talk about is the cin statement. So you know how to print out to the screen. So let's say we want to ask the user, enter your age. How they're going to insert it is they're going to say cin, and then you're going to use this, which is a really greater than, but it's called the extraction operator, okay? And you use it with cin statements. And then you're going to point to the variable age. Now let's see out. We're going to just see out again age like we did before, and an endl, okay? Now you might be wondering why I didn't put an endl right here, and I'll run that and then I'll kind of explain the reasoning behind that. So with how I said enter your age here, I didn't end the line, so it put the cursor blinking immediately following that line, which just format-wise, that looks a little bit better than if the cursor was blinking underneath the E. So, I mean, it's kind of just a picky thing, but it does help make your programs look a little bit neater. So I'm going to say I'm 18, and it'll print out that I'm 18, okay? So that's going to be cins and couts. Now, there's a little bit more we could do with this. We could say you are, and you actually have to put this piece here in quotes. So you'd say you are, another insertion operator, and then point to age, and then do another insertion operator and say endl. And we'll run this once just so you can kind of get an idea. And I'm actually going to use a different value this time because age is already set to 18. So I'll say I'm 25. You are 25. See, so it took the value I entered and saved it within here. Okay? So now 25 was the value stored within memory. Okay? So that's how that works. Okay? And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to ask them for their gender as well, but we're going to ask them within the same question. So we're going to say, enter your age, and then enter your gender. And we're going to do M or F. We're just going to kind of prompt them for that type. Now, to do this, you're going to say cin, extraction operator, age, then another extraction operator, and then say gender. Okay, and that's pointing to this. But they have to enter their age first and then the gender, because you can't store a character within age. Okay, so now down here we're going to say you are age, and we'll kind of make this one a little more advanced. We'll say years old, and then we'll go on to say you are a, and then another insertion operator, gender, insertion operator, endl. Okay. So I'll give you guys a second to copy that if you are, just because I know it's hard to look at the screen and be switching if you're not multi-screening it. So I'll go ahead and run that right now. So it says enter your age and then enter your gender. So I'm going to say that I am 20 and I'm a male. And it says you are 20 years old, you are a M. Okay? Now, there's another way to do this where we could take a string and it would print out the whole word male, but we're going to get into that later just because we have to include a different functions. So that's going to be that for the cout and cins. And the last thing that we're going to tackle within this is a command called static cast. Okay, and here I'll comment this off, so you guys should too, unless you want it to run while we try the static cast. So how static cast works is, let's say we have a value called, we'll say we have grade equals 90, okay? And here, I forgot to make that a float. We're going to make it a float, okay? Grade equals 90.0. And then students, we're going to say int students equals 11.0, or just 11, okay? So now, if we were to see out grade divided by students, it would print out the correct, it would say, it should give us the decimal, okay? 8.18182. But what happens if this is an int and there's no 0 over here? It's just going to say 8. So the way to get around this, now, let's jump back to that 9 divided by 4. What you'd do is you'd say int age equals 9 divided by 4. But then over here, we're going to make one of these. Sorry, this is a float. We're going to say, we'll do a C out here so you can see age. And then we're going to copy it again. Age equals static underscore cast. And then a less than, and then a greater than. And we're going to say what kind of data we want to convert it to. We're going to say float. And then we're going to do parentheses, and we're going to say 9. Okay? And we're going to do 9 divided by 4. And now we're going to see out age. And you'll see the difference. Okay? So you'll see that originally age was just 2, but really when you static cast 9 to a float, it makes it 2.25. And this is called an explicit cast, just because you're forcing it into a float. Now, it would be a little bit difficult unless you know exactly what this is going to be. So another way you could do this is say int x equals 9. Okay, so we're just going to declare another variable. And we're going to change this to x. And we're going to change this to x as well. That way you wouldn't have to know the exact number. You could just reference a variable, and you know you're going to want to make it be a float. Okay? So we'll go ahead and force it into a float. And then see, that worked the exact same way. Alright? So that's going to be that for section 1. Section 2 is going to be, I'm going to upload all of them at the same time. Just I'm breaking them into into shorter segments. So this is what section 2 will contain. And just so you guys know, when we get done with all these sections, I feel like there might be maybe 8 sections of C++. We're going to move on from C++ into Java with Eclipse and Python and then Ruby. Okay, and then there's a few other languages I have in mind, but I had to learn them myself. But we'll get into that shortly, okay? So I'll put this in the description, and like and subscribe, and if you guys want to learn some more C++, just check out my other videos, okay? Thanks.